It is Thursday. It's the 31st of July. I'm Moon Gun-young. This is ARIRANG News live from Seoul. Our top stories today. Korean voters in 15 districts give the ruling party an enhanced parliamentary majority in the by-elections, also giving President Park the political momentum to drive an economic stimulus program and regulatory reforms. Taking responsibility for the crushing defeat, the two co-leaders of the main opposition party and the Supreme Council stepped down from their posts. And on the verge of default, Argentina fails to strike a deal to avert its second default in more than 12 years after talks with holdout creditors end without settlement. We'll have those stories and more, but first, let's begin with the results from the largest by-election in Korean history, where 15 seats for the National Assembly were up for grabs. And it was an overwhelming victory for the ruling party, winning 11 seats and regaining its majority in the National Assembly. First, our Choi Yoo-sun has a wrap-up of the results.
It's a victory for the ruling Saenuri Party. With a voter turnout of expected 32.9%, the ruling party took home 11 out of the 15 parliamentary seats up for grabs in Wednesday's by-elections. That allows the party to regain majority at the National Assembly. Despite the main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy's unity with the Minor Justice Party in 3 constituencies in the capital region, only one candidate has defeated his ruling party rival. In the hotly contested race of Seoul's Dongjakbi district, the ruling party's former Seoul mayor candidate Na Kyung-won secured a ticket to parliament after defeating her unified opposition rival No Hae-chan, albeit by a margin of a bit over 1 percentage point. In the Suwon-si district of Gyeonggi-do province, opposition candidate and political big name Son Ha-kyu bowed out to conservative rookie Kim Yong-nam, who garnered nearly 53% of votes. In the Suwon-di district, the opposition's Park Kwang-won, a former journalist, came out the winner against his ruling party rival and chief of staff to former President Lee Myung-bak, Im Tae-hee, with a difference of over 5,000 votes. The ruling party swept the other 3 capital area districts, including Gimpo, where the ruling party's Hong Cheol-ho tasted victory against liberal political veteran Kim Do-kwan. Securing all of the 2 seats in its traditional stronghold of southeastern Gyeongsang region, the ruling party also took all 3 seats from the central Chungcheong area. As for the opposition, it won 3 seats from its political base of southwestern Jeolla region. But the 4th seat in the Suncheon Gokseong district was claimed by President Park's close aide Lee Jung-hyun, the first time ever by a ruling party candidate. Choi Yoo-sun, ARIRANG News.
And following a crushing defeat in Wednesday's by-elections, the co-leaders of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy have resigned. All members of the party's Supreme Council, including co-leaders Kim Han-gil and An Cheol-soo, decided to step down to take responsibility for the by-election loss, a party spokesman said after a Supreme Council meeting. Well, the leaders have been heavily criticized for causing friction during the nomination process and thereby lowering the party's chances of a good showing in the poll. Meanwhile, party floor leader Park Young-sun will temporarily take the helm until new leaders are elected. So voters have given the Conservatives the opportunity to overhaul their party and focus on more urgent issues rather than being wrangled in political disputes. The party leadership's top priorities now, well, of course, boosting the economy and hitting the accelerator on President's reform drive. Ji Myung-gil reports.
President Park Geun-hye has been given the green light to get busy running state affairs for the rest of her term. The ruling Saenuri Party's unexpected landslide victory in Wednesday's by-election has given the government a mandate to rebuild itself in the wake of April's ferry disaster and pursue its stated goal of economic revival.
The people voted for the Saenuri Party because the public felt the urgency to reform the country and revive the economy.
The governing party promised to support President Park in carrying out her national reform drives and not to use politics to divide the people.
The Sewol Party will denounce any form of regionalism that is deeply rooted in Korean politics and will work toward bringing about national unity.
The ruling party's new chairman, Kim Moo-sung, is expected to use the election win as a mandate to carry out a complete overhaul of the party. With no elections scheduled until 2016, Kim has ample time to make his mark. It is also possible that he may equalize the nature of the relationship between the party and the presidential house of Cheongwade. The ruling Saenuri Party now has 158 seats in the 300-seat National Assembly. The main opposition party has 130. Kim Young-gil, ARIRANG News.
Now, government measures to revitalize the housing market go into effect on Friday, that is tomorrow. They're intended to lessen the burden on potential homebuyers and make it easier for them to stay out of debt. But as our Kim Ji-yeon reports, it could end up having the opposite effect for the older generation.
Some government regulations on the housing market are being eased starting Friday, and the Korean economy is expected to start feeling the effects in the latter half of this year. The changes include easing measures that limit the amount that people can borrow from banks when buying a house, depending on various economic variables, including income. The loan-to-value and debt-to-income, or LTV and DTI ratios, are being raised to 70% and 60% respectively. This means home buyers would be able to borrow up to $340,000, up nearly $100,000 from the current total when buying a house worth $488,000. They'll also feel less pressure to turn to non-banking institutions that charge them higher interest rates. The policy has already started to bring some vitality into the housing market. The number of housing transactions in Seoul shot up in July, which is traditionally an off month for home buying. The Financial Supervisory Service says the amount of housing mortgage loans increased by 80% in June from the previous month to $475 million, the highest amount in 12 months. But the moves are also being met with concern. It's feared the deregulatory moves may lead people in their 50s or older into more debt. Last month, the amount of housing mortgage loans for people in those older age groups increased an average of 20% from 2 years earlier. This according to data from Korea's 4 major commercial banks. They were apparently trying to pay back debt accrued from self-employed businesses and from losses incurred after failing to sell houses amid falling prices. Kim Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
Now, Latin America's third largest economy is headed down the path toward default for the second time in 13 years. This after talks between Argentina and its holdout creditors ended without a deal. Argentina in the red. Our Na Hyun-kyung has the details.
His face lined with tension. Argentine Economy Minister Axel Kicillof walks into a press conference in New York after failing to reach agreement on averting his country's second default in nearly 13 years.
This offer is legal for Argentina and doesn't violate our contract's clauses, but was not accepted by the vulture funds. This offer wasn't accepted because evidently they want more, and they want it now.
Global ratings agency Standard & Poor's has downgraded Argentina's foreign currency rating to selective default. Analysts say a default of Latin America's third largest economy is unlikely to have a huge impact on the global economy, but will likely weaken the Argentina peso as more people hold on to dollars. The imminent default stems from a years-long legal battle with 2 of Argentina's bondholders who had rejected restructured debt agreements in 2002 when the country first defaulted. The Buenos Aires government at present cannot pay other creditors because of a U.S. court ruling last month, which said no creditor can be paid unless the 2 so-called holdout creditors are paid as well. Kisilov says the country will take all the necessary measures to confront what he referred to as an unfair situation. 나현경, 아리랑 뉴스.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has decided to continue winding down its bond buying stimulus plan, cutting its monthly asset purchases to $25 billion from $35 billion. Now, this is their sixth consecutive $10 billion cut, and it means the Fed is on course to end its bond purchase program in October. Well, Fed officials led by Chair Janet Yellen are also stepping up a debate over when to raise the country's interest rates for the first time since 2006 as unemployment falls faster and inflation picks up to its 2% target. For now, though, interest rates were kept near the 0% range, despite the jobless rate falling to a 6-year low of 6.1%.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Moon Gon-yong, live from Seoul.
Mobile shopping market for the dual use of the Korean name East Sea and Japanese name Sea of Japan in school textbooks in the state of Virginia. Now to the latest on the probe into the Sewol ferry sinking. Prosecutors continue to grill the chauffeur of the ferry operator's owner for a second straight day on Wednesday. 55-year-old Yang Hye-jung is being questioned over suspicions he helped Yu Byung-won evade a massive manhunt before the 73-year-old tycoon was found dead last month. Well, officials believe Yang could hold the key to finding out what had happened in the days and hours before Yu's mysterious death. Prosecutors plan to question him again later today. Authorities also said DNA testing of 44-year-old Yoo Dae-gyun, the detained eldest son of Yu Byung-won, shows that the body found is definitely that of the billionaire ship owner, ruling out suspicions that the body belonged to someone other than Yu. North Korea has, on 16 different occasions this year, conducted missile tests, drawing international condemnation each time that they have done so. With the provocations becoming more frequent, the U.S. says it's ready to tighten the screw on the regime, but it is asking the rest of the world to follow suit. Our UDN has this report.
Washington's point man on North Korea, Glenn Davis, says the United States won't sit back and simply wait on Pyongyang to denuclearize.
We're going to continue to do everything we can, not to sit down and have a coffee klatch with them and try to convince them of the logic of it, but to use pressure, in particular, to point out to them that there's only one way forward. It's the peaceful diplomatic path forward.
The comments came in a hearing held by the House Subcommittee on Asia and the Pacific, where Davies and the U.S. Special Envoy for North Korean Human Rights, Robert King, were questioned for over an hour on the Obama administration's approach to Pyongyang's combative policies. King defended the administration's stance.
We're looking at sanctions. One of the issues that we need to do is try to do whatever we do in concert with other countries. Sanctions by the United States alone are very limited effectiveness.
In the latest round of unilateral measures against the North Korean regime, the United States Treasury Department imposed sanctions on 2 North Korean shipping companies that operated a ship that was seized by Panama last year for trying to transport military equipment in violation of UN resolutions. The renewed emphasis on U.S. policy towards Pyongyang comes on the heels of a series of missile launches by the reclusive state, 16 this year alone. North Korea fired 4 more short-range missiles into the East Sea on Wednesday afternoon. In response, the U.S. Department of Defense said North Korea should stop polluting waters around the country with missiles and focus instead on feeding its own people. 유리안, 아리랑 뉴스.
China has expressed its will to conclude free trade talks with Korea on the sidelines of this year's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. And this is according to Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol. He was on a 2-day visit to Beijing this week, and he met with senior Chinese officials there. Now, Cho said the officials urged him to make sure the bilateral agreement was ready to be signed at the APEC summit this November in Beijing. In response, Cho said he asked the Chinese side to put more political will into meeting that schedule. But the Korean minister did add that the talks are proceeding at a snail's pace as both sides remain far apart on tariff removal for agricultural and industrial goods. During the latest round of negotiations, the two countries agreed in principle on market liberalization. Meanwhile, Korea's largest automaker Hyundai Motor is recalling more than 880,000 Sonata sedans sold in the United States over problems with gear shift levers. Now, according to U.S. safety regulators, an issue with the model's transmission shift cable can make it seem as though the car is in one gear, such as park or drive, when it's actually in another, which of course raises the risk of a crash. The recall affects Sonata models produced at a manufacturing plant in Alabama between 2011 and 2014. Hyundai says there have been over 1,100 warranty claims about the problem and 7 incidents related to the issue. There are also concerns that the recall of Hyundai's best-selling model in the U.S. will hurt the company's brand image. Now, if you are in Korea or have been here in recent years, you'll have an idea of how widespread smart devices are. So you won't be surprised to hear that Korea's mobile internet usage percentage is the highest in Asia-Pacific region at more than 70%. Market research firm eMarketer also says that Korea will lead the mobile internet usage among the Asia-Pacific countries until 2018. Behind Korea are Australia, Japan, and China, respectively. India is the fastest growing mobile internet market in the region, and the average percentage of mobile internet users in this Asia-Pacific region was lower than 30% this year, but that, of course, is expected to expand to more than 38% at least by 2018. eMarketer considers a person who accessed a mobile web browser or mobile application at least once a month as a mobile internet user. Now, what Seoul is also known for is it's a city full of modern architecture, bustling streets, and vibrant nightlife. But there is one common criticism leveled at the capital. It lacks green space. And there is a push now to make sure Seoul is more green. The Welfare Forest Project is the city government's plan to spruce up the yards of the more than 5,000 welfare centers and special education facilities around the capital. Our Connie Lee has this special report.
From the looks of it, it doesn't seem like you're in a busy metropolis. But in the yards of Seoul's various social welfare centers and education facilities, lush green scenery is what you can see. The Welfare Forest Project is a campaign currently underway by the Seoul metropolitan government for more green spaces in the city, especially for those places that need it the most.
If you see a lot of these welfare centers or public interest facilities, their outdoor environment is very poor. But with this project, we want to make those environments more green with a park, garden, or forest.
For instance, at the so-called Dream Tree Village, which consists of an orphanage and a specialized school, some empty space was able to be transformed.
Now, this area was once just a field of dirt, creating a lot of dust. But now it has transformed into a very welcoming park.
The kids like to catch many insects here. Also, the teachers like to bring the children out here for a picnic.
Even residents nearby are able to enjoy the park.
There are so many trees here and the air is nice. I feel good and refreshed when I'm here.
It's a city initiative, along with the Korea Forest Service, that started back in 2008. Encouraging different public interest facilities to apply for this funding and have their front yards or backyards transformed. So far, more than 26 facilities in the city have a new garden or park to boast about, with the government now accepting more applications for the year 2015. The deadline to apply for the program for next year is this Friday. Connie Lee, ARIRANG News.
And now it's time for our arts and culture segment. And of course, for that, our Im Yoon-hee joins me live in the studio. Good afternoon to you, Yoon-hee.
Good afternoon, Kanya.
So, believe it or not, our monsoon season is over. We didn't get much rain, but it is over. And now we are really entering the dog days of summer. And I see that you have a performance for us that would help us, offset the cost of keeping cool.
Yes, I do. So first of all, 1,000 won is approximately equivalent to $1 US. So these days it won't get you much, maybe a pack of gum or a bottle of water. And when it comes to concerts and performances, 1,000 won can't take you very far, or can it?
It can, and it does. 1,000 won will buy you a beautiful summer night filled with harmonious sounds. It'll also buy you the heart-racing music made by a bow against the strings of a cello and a violin.
This was a fantastic event that I can't believe I was able to see with just 1,000 won. I didn't realize how much 1,000 won could buy these days.
It's such a cheap price. I can easily bring the kids here as well. It would be nice to see more events like this, where we can watch performances with just about anyone.
1,000 won gets you this ticket, which gets you entrance to the Happiness of 1,000 Won program, something that aims to bring classical music within grasp to the general public. Since 2007, the program has grown immensely in size, and now tickets must be reserved far in advance. Most tickets are reserved online on the 5th through 7th of every month that the concert takes place. July's performances, held under the theme of chamber music at midnight, includes the works of up-and-coming musicians, such as this violinist. Kim Bomsori is a passionate and talented young musician. She's displayed excellence in her art and is recognized so by performing in large and reputable venues like the Sejong Center. This is just one of many programs the Sejong Center constructs in order to raise talented young musicians like Kim and bolster their reputations in the classical music realm.
The audience here is filled with people who don't regularly attend these kinds of concerts, which makes it all the more special. There are still many people not familiar with classical music, so we want to lower the barrier and help them come in to experience all that there is to offer. This concert is very unique, and I wish there were more just like it.
1,000 won, well spent. But here in these chamber halls, amongst neighbors and friends, it doesn't seem to be about the price, but instead about a summer night made better by the happiness of 1,000 won.
Wow, I mean, these are priceless performances, priceless, gifts that these artists would like to share with the general public. And, happiness for just 1,000 won, less than $1 US, that's incredible. But this only runs until tonight.
Right. So tonight they're actually showing a performance by a rising violist here in Korea. And unfortunately, some sad news, the July series of concerts have already been sold out. However, they do still have 5 more series planned for the rest of this year, and they'll be taking place approximately every month. And so for those, like I mentioned earlier, you want to get your tickets through the 5th and 7th of the according months. And so, this program is very unique. Which each series, they have different themes. So for instance, in the fall, they have a wonderful kugak program planned, and for Christmas, they have a Christmas special planned to close off the season. So an overall very wonderful program for everybody to enjoy. And so, last year they actually saw 6,000 attendees, and so it's a very effective, very popular program. So like I said earlier, you really want to jump on those tickets.
Right. This really seems like a program that's designed to bring cultural happiness, enrichment to the general public here in Korea.
Right. So it's a very program that they want to open the door to, classical music to the general public. But they also actually have another program called the Good Citizen Program, and so they want to take applications via fax or email, and they want to see applications on behalf of others for people who people to think that deserve to go and see this concert. And so it could either be someone who is, very cultured, very into classical music, or someone who is completely new and has never been to a performance before. And so they really want to open the doors and, open arms to everybody.
Right. So is this like a gift by someone else?
It can be. So if you do win the application, you are chosen, then you do get a free ticket to this concert series.
Well, a good heart there. All right, Uni, thanks so much for the heartwarming program for us today.
Always a pleasure.
Good afternoon. It's another scorching hot day here, and the temperatures are high, and so is the discomfort index due to the high humidity levels. Now, heat wave advisories and warnings are in effect as well across the nation. As you can see, temperatures in some areas are going to top out at 33 degrees Celsius or even higher this afternoon. Now, the rain is also in the cards for today. The central region, including Sewol and the southern regions, will see up to 40 millimeters of precipitation today, and areas down south will also be influenced by the typhoon Nakari, which will bring rain and strong tides. Now, going over to our today's readings, Seoul will top out at 33 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will peak up to 33 and 32 degrees. Now, moving over to other regions, Jeju Island tops over to 32 as well. Dokdo hits 29, while Mangkeungang tops to 31. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you, Kanyang.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for that. And that's just about all from me at this hour. I'm Moon Gon-young. Check back with us at 4 p.m. Korea time for Business Today.